That's our take on it.
And we just want to be clear, when we say reusing this building, we're not talking about just painting it
No.
and reusing it. We're talking about stripping it out on the inside and opening it up. So one of the problems is half the building is just full of little spaces and it's not very flexible. We'd be wiping everything out, maybe filling in the entry over there, but making more usable floor plate that's more flexible in the long run. So
Right, and, you know, new mechanical system, new infrastructure in the building, so, you know, when you're inside the building, the idea would be that you don't, as you move between the new part and the old part, you don't really know which part you're in. I mean, you know, ideally, that's the way we were trying to do this.
whether it's new or old, it should be a 30 to 50-year solution.
Exactly.
All right. Questions?
Does that seem to make sense? Is-
Oh, yeah, what is the parking implication of not having the underground because you're building underground?
So I think that one of the things we want to look at, when we take, you know, one of the things that's, we've only got 100 spaces in this scheme. And one of the things that's limiting the amount, the kind of efficiency of that parking lot is this appendage that we're putting on the building. So I think we want to look at one where we just, you know, what if we limit ourselves to that footprint, get more parking out in front of here, and see how it works out with the program. So we gain some surface parking, and I think if we did that, we could probably, we should be able to get at least what you have right now, and maybe get closer to the 140, 150 count, well, probably not quite that high, you know, that we have in some of the other schools. But another way to consider it, you know, we did consider, could we park underneath this building? And the problem is, you know, when I referred to the 60-foot bay widths that are very efficient, this is not a very efficient way to park. Plus, it'll only be one way in, so it's kind of a dead end. It's not as if you can get in and then find a way to get back out.
So your existing building's missing a floor.
Right.
So so it's less efficient to fit the building on site when it's larger. So this is going to be kind of a balance between what amount of building we can get on and enough parking to meet your needs. Kind of.
With that 60-foot guideline, would it be possible to have the leg be 60 feet wide and only go a partial
Yes, but
garage?
by the time you get the ramp down, it's gonna be so inefficient.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you're
All
gonna
right.
pay
All right.
per parking space
Sure.
to get that little bit of additional parking, it won't be worth it.
Right.
So I think, you know, that frankly, that's one of the other things that's driving the cost in the other
Mhm.
scheme, is the below-grade parking garage. Right, so I think the other reason to approach it the way we're suggesting is that we're taking that out as a cost of the project as well. So I think the use, we're not saying that at the end of the day, the right solution is necessarily going to be one or the other. I think what might happen as a result of doing this is that we discover something, you know, that kind of leads us to something else, you know, to kind of the final solution out of it. But I think this is a good way to look at it, because I think it'll give us a number. It won't be like we're comparing two things that are very similar, just in different parts of the site. This is going to force us to explore different program ideas, you know, a lot of different things. So.
And everything having to do with the existing building, one of, I think, the key factors is the fact that it is located where it is on the current site. Because you're cut off from any kind of expansion on 2.5 sides of the
Yes,
building.
yes.
Yes.
Because it sticks into that little butt out of this entire site,
No, and one of the things that we've even talked about is, does it make sense to look at a leg across here? It's kind of the idea of taking this, you know, then you get access from both streets more easily, get a leg out here. You know, it doesn't work quite as well, I think, with your existing building, but I think it's something that we'll test as well. But I think even if we leave this here, we'll pull this down enough so that you can get in. You do have access from Illinois Street to get, you know, to the parking lot as well.
Yeah, we recognize that needs to be an end scheme.
We think it's unfortunate this isn't a public way to get in.
Yeah.
Off of Lockport here, that would be a great second way to get into.
And with that proposal, then this building could not be used while the other buildings being built, right?
No, we would set it up in all likelihood so that you could be occupied here.
Even if
You're going to lose your windows off of one area of the building or another. But
It'll be noisy.
the idea would be to keep you in operation.
Oh, okay.
But it's a very good point, because one of the things it does, it creates a multi-phase building, right? So we're doing this on another library project right now. So what that means is that you occupy this building while the new one's being built. When that's done, you have to move out of here into the new building so that they can come in here and tear this one apart and redo it. Then when that's done, then you have to move back in and kind of occupy the whole thing. So it ends up being three-phase. You might think about it as kind of a two-phase process. It really ends up being three phases.
You have to redistribute yourself differently, kind of.
Yeah.
And the reason, that, you know, so that's a factor in the cost as well. So that is something, you know, we've got the parking garage cost in the one scheme, okay? But in the scheme where we add on to this building, you're gonna have some additional expenses related to this multi-phase approach that you have to take. So it's important to get those things factored into the cost up front, so that you're comparing, you know, apples to apples.
The addition will take the same amount of time to build as the new build. They're gonna be pretty comparable, but then you've gotta come back and renovate. So you've got a contractor on site a lot longer. And so you just have their administrative organization costs out here much longer.
Now,
And you
we've
move-
done this.
And you move twice instead of once.
Yes.
That's right.
Moving's
That's right.
fine.
No, but we've done this with other libraries too, if it's at all possible, if there's some vacant, you know, we did, it in the Oak Park
Yeah.
Library, there was an empty Pep Boys. It wasn't even in Oak Park, it was across the street in another community. And they moved into the Pep Boys so that the contractor could have at the existing site, you know, and so, you know, that's not a cheap thing to do. I mean, in that case, it's probably about $1 million premium just to move off-site and then move back on. But even at that, it was less expensive than them trying to, you know, stay with
It
it.
really requires a large piece of real estate being available and in good shape that you can reuse without sinking a lot of money into it.
Yeah.
Well, and are there potential design implications for that double move as well? I mean, like, you can't put all of the offices in the
No.
new building and then distribute them.
Well, what
Throughout.
happens is staff is uncomfortable.
No, you're gonna, no.
You're still moving to a building that's twice the size of what you have now.
Right,
So
but certain areas are designed
But you have
for
to take
certain
into
uses.
account, circulation, you know, where you check out your books and things, has to be in that phase, in the first phase, because you're gonna need that.
Right,
And you
Right.
gotta be able, and if you have to stage it somewhere and relocate it, then that's another added expense. So you
Yeah.
try and allow for a lot of that, but some things are gonna cross over.
yeah, okay.
And you'll wind up with things like one of the meeting rooms or the story time room or whatever will wind up being just like a big office
Yes.
space.
Sure.
But during the phasing, because you'll need somewhere to put all of those folks whose places will be in the.
Eventually.
Yeah.
No,
New old building.
you
So
know,
there's.
it'll probably have some impact on you here. We have to sort it out, but like Don said, the other project we're doing, the electrical room for both buildings is in the old building. And the staff had to clear out of that area so we could build a new electrical room.
Okay.
So there is some inconveniences. You've already doubled up on your staff spaces, so, but it is there
Right.
are people in spaces like this that are
Yeah.
using it as an office during
That's right.
construction. We've tried to limit how long that is, but eventually it has to, the crossover happens.
I'm not an architect, but would the determination in terms of design style, et cetera, then be different if we had to include this building?
Possibly, but not necessarily, I would say. Because I think that regardless of whether we're building a new standalone building or adding on to this one, if we build a new standalone building, it still has to fit in with the character of the downtown. It's still gotta be a fit. And so I think whatever that might be, we don't know exactly what that is yet, but whatever that might be, I think would also be appropriate to adding on to the existing building. So I think, you know, I don't know if I've referred to this before, but the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for adding on to buildings that are on the National Register of Historic Places, they don't want you to add on in a way that it imitates the original building. They want you to add on in a way where when you look at it, you can distinguish the original building from what's new. And that's really out of respect for the historic character of the original building. Now, I'm not saying that this building qualifies as a historic structure, okay? But I'm saying that the attitude, that attitude as far as how you approach the design, I think is an appropriate way to think about it.
That's not everyone's assumption. Most people assume you have to match.
Mm,
kind of,
okay.
and that is not the preferred way for adding on. But it has to be compatible, scale, the windows, things like that might come into play more.
Yeah.
parking spaces,
Yep.
those, when you say 140 to 150, as we project that with how many square feet we're looking at, are we saying that that might in some way be adequate?
I think if the measurement is if the measurement is according to the zoning ordinance, no, I don't think you're gonna meet that.
Well, and we have to recognize the fact that it will still be a shared parking lot, which means
Yes.
it's even
Right.
less
Yes.
that
Yes,
for our dedicated parking.
yes.
So we want to get as many spaces as you have now, plus some.
Right.
But you do have, the beauty of the downtown is you can draw from other street parking areas and things like that too. And you have more foot traffic and things to the library, so it's,
But the proportion might not be much different between the two schemes. Because in the building where we can build more square footage, we also get more parking. In the other one, we're probably gonna build less square footage and we get less parking. So the proportional difference between those two may not be that great. It's something we'll have to figure out as we go along.
But compared to now, it's worse because we're
Yes,
2.5, 3 times
Yes,
the square footage
Well,
with the new building.
proportionally, it will be awful compared to
Yeah.
what you have right now, yes.
Does the village say anything at your meetings about a parking deck?
Somebody asked the question about building a parking deck and then building a library on top of it or something like that.
or
which we-
beside it or.
Yeah, which we didn't think
It's
was.
the Aurora Casino approach, where you build a giant parking garage, you go into it, then you have to find your way into the library on the other side.
That sounds pretty.
That doesn't sound, it's as bad as I can describe it. But it doesn't sound like something that would fit into the context of this downtown
No,
area, the
no,
scale.
and frankly, it should be our responsibility to build.
There were other suggestions for off-site things and stuff that kind of go beyond the scope of this project,
Yes.
as far as putting a bridge across
Oh, right, yeah,
59 or something.
to access Central School.
That's like a 4-year commitment of dealing with IDOT to just get through the notion of that whole idea. But it's not to say if someone else wanted to build a garage over there, that it wouldn't be advantageous to have
This
a
town
connection
does
over the long run.
dance around its need for parking. Like, it's
Oh,
crazy,
yes.
like the
Yeah.
mileage they'll go to not actually improve
I'm
the
just thinking
situation.
Naperville, how they have,
1,000,000 parking garages and adequate space to walk around in.
So
Yes.
the commitment to actually fund a parking deck is key
There,
by whatever entity is most interested in doing that. At this point, we are looking at the price of, the tax tolerance of our community is probably going to be the same regardless of how much parking and how much square footage we can get. So the price we are going to pay for an expanded library is not going to necessarily change in dollars and cents. It's going to change in square feet and number of parking spaces.
Right. It becomes a trade-off.
Yeah.
So we're
Within-
talking trade-offs. The cost of underground or deck parking is very high.
suburban parking garages do not pay for themselves.
No.
They're loss leaders. And you put them in because you're feeding some business around you that's gonna be a big tax advantage to the downtown area or something.
and I was saying with the village,
Directly with the village, there's not been any conversation on that
Wasn't
that
the-
came out of the
We're-
meetings that we had.
Wasn't the last time we talked about this, like 3 or 4 months ago, the village was thrilled with the idea of us building a parking
Yeah.
garage?
Oh, sure.
They would support us paying for the parking garage,
Right.
but they had no interest in participating in a parking garage that required them to give money.
Or
And to
even,
be fair, they just paid for
Well, yeah.
the new parking we have.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that-
I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, I just,
Right,
that's
right.
a big commitment that the town needs, but is also a big commitment that the town doesn't often do.
Huge financial commitment.
There are also some, on your site, there are some very serious design challenges with trying to fit both a parking deck and a 80,000, 100,000 square foot library building on the site together. There are some very serious challenges with that.
I don't think they'd be open to 5 floors.
you
No, but
need a bigger site.
Well, and the other
Where
thing,
we're gonna
I-
put stormwater is a big part.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
no, but it also, it doesn't seem like you want a library where the one whole side of it is taken up with a parking garage either,
Yeah.
right? Especially if that's where people are gonna park, which is where you wanna put your front door, imagine what that environment.
Well,
You
it
know,
has
you
lighting
know,
implications, I
yeah.
mean, that
Exactly,
affects natural
exactly.
light on a whole side of the building.
Yeah.
So-
It works better for a casino where you don't want anyone to know what time of the day.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, but I guess we just wanted to confirm that this approach makes sense going forward, okay.
Yeah, so the first decision we really have to make is, do we continue with development of plans for the greenfield site? And I would say that based on the feedback that we've gotten, plus internal conversations that we have had, that I think we could be safe and comfortable removing that option for exploration, but I would be open to other discussion about that.
I was for it last month.
Okay.
And I will also for the record, the board did receive the summary of the online feedback that was received through the building expansion webpage, and that was, again, overwhelmingly for remaining in the downtown. So there was a little more support or willingness to entertain the idea of a completely new building on the downtown site, but it was reiterated time and time again, downtown.
Anyone else thoughts on narrowing our scope a little bit here, or a lot of it, actually?
I just think that our architect dollars can go further, being spent here, focusing on the site that we have had board positive, public positive, library positive. I would rather you guys spend our money doing something nice here so we can sell that to the public and then continue to entertain a spot that is just not suited for a future library. Maybe if it was gonna be retail development someday, but if it's all gonna be light industrial and a water reclamation plant, that's not really somewhere I would wanna take my niece to go run around in with the trucks and the trains.
And quite frankly, quite a few of the comments were, it didn't matter if it was that greenfield site or another greenfield site.
Right.
There is no greenfield site in the downtown, therefore, don't leave.
Yeah, it was stay here,
Mm-hmm.
regardless, with several of the comments.
I don't think we would find much public that would really object to our disposing of that greenfield site as a concept for us to develop.
All right, can we have a motion and second to do so?
I'll make a motion to strike the greenfield site from the architecture plans and focus directly on our current location.
Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Alright.
Abstaining? All right,
Unanimous, we're staying
there we are.
downtown.
Excellent.
Well done.
Put it.
Staying downtown, now we just have to figure out how. Good
All right.
luck, Don and Eric and Julia.
Well, and do you want a directive to just focus on the two, or do you?
We don't need a directive, I think
Okay,
we just wanna
fine.
make sure we're on, if you have another idea or, let us
No,
know.
I think you've got the right plan already. I
Okay.
think that those north-south oriented buildings just don't lend themselves for a number of different reasons.
Okay,
Excellent. All right, thank you very much. And I do think that the two sessions went very well.
yeah, it's a good start.
By volume of people and by volume of feedback, even at that smaller meeting on
Yeah.
Saturday morning, I felt like a lot of people
Well, it
really
was consistent,
offered
yeah,
good things that helped us.
okay, good.
All right, action item number 2 then, under unfinished business, is the committee appointments, which had technically begun last meeting because we did have to have a finance committee meeting. And did meet, and that committee will have Pat Miller as chair, as treasurer, as that committee always does. And the other 2 members on there will continue to be Crystal and Samantha to help provide some continuity on that. So that will be the finance committee meeting. The personnel committee Sharon will be the chair of that. And then Pat and Crystal will stay on that. And I will roll off but attend in my ex officio capacity.
Do we have a handout on that?
We do not, that
Okay.
it's being presented and then
Okay, all right.
Deb will type it up and get us the new copy.
Isn't number 29?
And I can,
No,
that's
That's
the
the
old
existing
today.
one.
Until-
I'll read it back
Correct.
to you in a minute.
Correct. All right, and then buildings and grounds is going to be chaired by Jason. And Pat will stay on that. No,
Vicky.
Vicky will stay on that. And who was the other member on that one?
I thought it was Pat.
No, it is, you're right, it is Pat.
Okay.
But then I have Pat on all three,
Yes.
and that's not right.
Told me to talk to me, put me on personnel.
That's right, sorry, not
All right.
Pat, Vicky. On
All right.
personnel. All right, so, read those back.
All right, so for
I'll check
building
my
and
notes.
grounds,
Yes.
Chair, Jason Petz, members Vicky Knight and Pat Miller, Finance Committee, Chair, Dr. Miller, and trustees Crystal Andel and Samantha Hurtado, Personnel chaired by Sharon Kinley, with members Crystal Andel and Vicky Knight.
Yes, sorry. All right, and then the one other change that we're gonna make to that page, Sharon will continue to be the board representative to the foundation, but I am going to work with the job classification if and when that should arise.
We should probably have a lot of fun as we're planning for a new building.
Expansion, right, right. All right, thank you. So, committee assignment's done. And now, revisiting the automatic door opener proposals, period, plural.
Yes. We were able to secure one additional proposal from TJ. Stanley Access actually declined to give us a proposal. All of my staples are going the wrong way, sorry. I forgot this thing clipped together wrong. The proposal from TJ, which is included in your secondary packet, is actually about 50% more than the proposal that was put before you last month from Midwest Automatic Doors. TJ does not rep any product that can fit the current opening other than a bifold door, which is a more expensive sort of door. And that, so their proposal is at the $29,000 level, whereas for the inner and outer doors together from Midwest, that was $19,000. So Lance is recommending to move forward, and Stanley Access just didn't even have anything that was gonna come close. They were gonna have to do something completely different with the entire door opening, which is why they bowed out. They could not provide any telescoping doors. The warranties as submitted are for 1 year. The annual maintenance question had not yet been answered by these, but we feel that the NABCO doors, that telescoping doors that were proposed by Midwest will definitely be our best option moving forward, and Lance is looking for your approval for that. And that is in your original packet. Sorry, they got separated, but
So that's the one on page 30, beginning page 31.
page 31, yes.
Okay.
And that is They had actually done their proposal in 3 different stages. It was the outer doors, the inner doors, and the heat curtain as 3 separate things. It was $10,041 for the outer sliding doors, $9,398 for the inner sliding doors, and then $3,724 for the heat curtain, which is actually completely separate from the doors.
Total.
23,164.
Thank you. All right.
I'd like to
Question.
express the similar concern that I had to the cameras that we voted on last month, was that we are aggressively looking for a new building. This is a almost $25,000 investment on the building. And it's something that all of our patrons are going to see on a regular basis, asking, why are you improving this site? Why did you spend this much money? This is something we can't probably take with us to the next building. Even if we keep this building and we fill in that door there, that's still, the building itself might not be ready till 2018-19, but it's also $25,000. And I'm not against it, but I'm also leery about investing.
We have 2 major problems with the current front doors. Number 1 is that the openers do not work well at all. They are slow, they continue to be heavy, and we have a physical problem with those front doors. We can no longer get parts for them, and we are having regular problems with getting them to lock because of
They seem to come out of alignment.
They come out of alignment, the mechanism is no longer working. We've been band-aiding these doors for years, and they are finally just past it.
So I think the fear is if we were to continue to try and Band-Aid it,
Yeah.
we'd end up spending maybe half of this anyway, just in repairs and time and frustration.
And I mean, I totally get that too.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
when we
No, it's a
when we
good
do
concern.
big improvements on the building that we currently have, it just makes it look like when we're trying to have it both ways.
Well, but we have to continue
And
to
they
operate
do, and
until
again,
we
they
don't.
And, and anyone who has tried to get in and out of this building, either in a wheelchair or with a large stroller, will tell you how difficult those doors are today.
Yeah, I would hope that security, safety-wise, that we might look at that element for someone who does somehow get trapped. Because those doors do get heavy as they're attempting to close, maybe close early. And
Yes.
if there is
And that
someone
is-
in the way attempting to get in or out, they could get injured.
Mhm.
So that could be a real liability that, we would have to face. And $25,000 would be a very minimum amount if something of that nature
Yeah.
occurred.
And actually, only 19,000 is the doors themselves. The 3,700 is the heat curtain, which is separate and could be done separately. However, we do get quite a lot of heat and cooling loss through those doors. This air curtain would help mitigate that heat and cooling loss when the doors open and close. And it is highly recommended by the door company to do that. And just one of the things to remember is that the initial estimates for doing this project were much higher. They were more in the $50,000 range for this project, because at the time we initially looked at them, they could not identify a product that would fit the current opening. And we were entertaining the ideas that we would have to do something physical to that entire vestibule that was going to be a larger project.
Right. Well, and I like the fact that this takes it from a swinging door at all to the telescoping sliding ones that I think are much more inviting and safety conscious.
Yeah, and I mean, I very much like the door. That was just mine, and I'm more than willing to
No,
vote for it if it
it's a
needs
valid
to be.
concern, but
Yeah,
I think it
just-
is overridden by other needs right now. Right, especially security.
Yeah, and when you take the ADA portion into account,
Mhm.
and then they don't lock well,
Or they just don't close well during the day, because I've come here when they've they'll end up overlapping a little bit.
Mhm.
And then you've got a constant heat or cooling bleed all day.
Yeah.
Anytime we've had to approve replacing windows
I know.
or whatever.
Makes us
we
all
have not-
cringe.
We have
Makes us
not
all
wanted to
cringe.
put that money into,
This particular building.
because
Right.
there's so many different things. On the other hand, this is where we are.
Yeah.
This is our library, these are where our patrons come every day.
I guess I
think we don't
didn't
have a
realize
choice.
that the door was that bad at this current point, that it was mostly just jimmy together at this point.
Yeah.
Which I guess,
And without, viable correction
yeah,
in its current state.
and I mean, I guess that's the lesson of this entire